So what about productivity? I mean, the construction industry in Canada, it's at a 30-year low for productivity. We employ in our industry an eighth of the labor hours across the Canadian sector or the Canadian economy. And since the pandemic, our productivity is actually down. It's negative. And so we are actually dragging down the overall economy or the economic productivity in Canada. What do you see there? Is that consistent, those stats consistent with what you see on the ground and what you hear? Is there things we can do about that?
That is a trigger subject for me, so I'm just going to give you the small print warning.
Good. Have I hit the third rail already?
The rhetoric is common.
Yeah.
The math is wrong.
Sure. Let's hear correct me on the math.
When the Bank of Canada or when our federal masters and mistresses tell us that our productivity is down, they're not calculating how many bricks or how many tiles are being laid an hour. They're not calculating how many square feet of roofing are being kicked out an hour. They're multiplying GDP associated with construction by headcount, because that's about as complex as economists get.
Right. Yeah.
And if you actually look at what has really happened to construction over the last 25 years, probably in particular, buildings are a lot more complex now than they used to be. And so it requires more resources and more specialty trades and such to put these buildings together. The administrative burden associated with being on a project, the amount of paperwork you have to process, meaning you have grown this administrative overhead within your organization that's not making more bricks go down magically. They're literally producing paperwork, filling in forms, and complying with requirements. The amount of money we spend and energy we spend having to bid ridiculously complex procurements and spend money in pursuit costs. We haven't built a building yet. And we've already spent, in some cases, thousands, if not millions of dollars in pursuit. And then you look at the sort of race to the bottom that the industry has been forced to comply with, as low bid seems to be the only way people are capable of making a decision, which is absolutely wrong in many ways. But if you get the low bid consulting fee, then they don't have enough money to do a good set of drawings. And the industry will tell you today, they're lucky if drawings have 50% of the information they need to build. So now you have tradespeople on site that can't build because they're too busy trying to solve design issues and conflicts in the building. And so if you want to say the industry is productive, you need to look at the top of the food chain and every decision that gets made, because ultimately traditional productivity in our industry was at the trade level.
Right, that's right.
How effective could your crews be at getting in and out based on your estimate and everything else? That's not where productivity is wrong. They're not being set up for success because when they get handed the project to do, there's a lack of information and there's situations, projects aren't coordinated as effectively as they used to be. So when it comes to productivity in our industry, we are actually engaging in an initiative to try and push for a proper holistic study. And I mean, this is me supporting the underdog contractor, which I am at heart. Why do the builders always get the blame?
Well, I think it's a good question. And I think you raise all of these various areas where there's, regardless of how the stats are measured, there's incredible opportunities for efficiencies to be found. I look at our office, the compliance piece, whether it's safety, and we all agree that safety is important.
For sure.
But the paperwork that's involved in that and the compliance that's involved in that, quality control is another one where, again, we fill out these quality control manuals and reports and all these compliance requirements that often feel more like the check of a box than a genuine effort to find efficiencies and improve quality on a job site. The estimating and bidding process, I think, is broken. I mean, when 8 or 10 or 12 subcontractors price each scope, and one of them wins it, well, the other 11 have to factor in the overhead that went into their next bid.
Sure.
And so there's all these things where I think there's great opportunities for our industry to try to find efficiencies and improve things. And I think it's interesting that maybe the stats don't reflect the total value that's getting created. But certainly, it's great to hear that you're working on things to try to improve that, right?
Well, I mean, anytime I hear that rhetoric coming back out of some, a government that doesn't understand our business is telling us we're doing it wrong, really?
Yeah.
Would you like us to give a performance review on how effective you are?
I don't imagine they want the mirror turned on their efficiency. Yeah.
But The simplest expression that inspired me that we needed to do more to create a more holistic narrative was from an industry professional who said quite correctly, with no science, but everybody knows he's right, it takes 4 times as many people twice as long to build a building than it used to.
So is that a flaw or is that a reality? Is there things that can be done to change or improve on that?
I think so. I mean, I do think some of the admin and support is needed because we need to document more of what we do. But I do think there's a lot of unnecessary steps. I think the bidding process is unnecessarily arduous. If we were allowed to submit a bill for how much it cost us to do bids, we would not be asked to bid the way we are.
No, there's no question about
owners
that.
would see, how unrealistic the cost is. I really do think that there's massive opportunity. I do believe that if everybody's willing to accept that better buildings, better city building, more effective, efficient, and cost-effective, long-lasting, durable, low-energy footprint buildings is good for a city, then everybody needs to step up and be a part of that solution from the owners all the way down.
Are you seeing examples of that, of people putting that type of efficiency, even pilot projects into place when you talk to people in the industry?
I've seen it, there's various outlier examples where people are able to put together more of an integrated delivery methodology, whether it's alliance contracting or integrated project delivery, where they bring more key people in earlier in the process. So you've got more construction expertise during the design process in a design assist role. And then, there are techniques being explored with offsite fabrication. The English sort of equivalent has been platform methodology, where common elements don't have to be redesigned every time. A stair is a stair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
If you have a common tread width and riser height, why do you have to do a stair drawing for every project?
I mean, you look at the example in this province of the schools that need to be built. I mean, you could design one set of stairs for schools. You could design one gymnasium, give or take. And there's a lot of those things that you could plug and play across all the projects, right?
You could have a standard school and you could change the exterior finishes to reflect some differences. But at the end of the day, a customized school still has the same elements. A big gym and a large central hub area, and then portables and such as part of the overall structure and layout. Standardization means cost is more reliable because you're doing the same thing. You get better every time you do it. You do it faster, and there's better control over taxpayer dollars.
So if you had a magic wand and you could sort of fix anything in the industry, not labor, which we'll get into, or policy, but the process, the way that these projects get designed and built, what's the one thing that you think would have the biggest impact?
More team-based design and delivery, and doing away with low-cost bidding from consultants down. If consultants are getting the finger pointed at them because, well, your drawings aren't good enough, well, the reality is they're not being paid enough.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Consulting is an hourly service, and if the money isn't there, and the time often isn't, they're not even given the time budget. And so we need to recognize the value of investing in a better design process, more informed through a collaborative design and build methodology, and design for outcome, not for upfront bid cost.
And is this a collaboration issue? Is it a coordination issue? Is it ownership, education? I mean, we're talking schools. Is this a thing where we need to get the province to understand that there's a lot of red tape and a lot of costs that could be eliminated? Where's the point that we would be able to start to see some changes with this?
Well, I think there's been so many conversations about removing red tape, having contracts that are actually fair, where people don't have to put dollars against risk, that is more of a contingency to protect themselves for this contract that is the equivalent of a declaration of war in advance. That has been pointed out. If you want to save money, be an easier customer to deal with. Be much more fair and reasonable in the post-contract stages. Public buyers need to have more people in-house that come from industry. We've never seen less, and it shows in everything that happens from the procurement process right through the project delivery. Have a debrief at the end of a project. What did we learn? What can we repeat that's good? What can we fix that wasn't? And be willing to engage with industry in this ongoing partnership towards success.